Hey guys, welcome back to Podcast of the Day. And we are on a Northern Ireland tour again. It happens quite a lot. And we're back in CrossFit 8020 to speak to a coach that we didn't speak to last time, but also, pretty excitingly, Ireland's national champion, PD Savage.
Thank you very much.
I feel if we had an audience, there would be an applause. That's the moment where you could get clapped out of the room. Firstly, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for coming.
Because I appreciate we're smack bang in the middle of a normal training day and you've just come from physio.
Yeah.
How are things feeling?
Feeling good, feeling loose, feeling recovered, ready for today's like an active recovery swim run day. So be feeling good to hit training again hard tomorrow.
So you're going to hate me for this because I'm going to direct a load of people to a certain video, but I've been hanging out here for the last couple of hours speaking to people.
Okay.
And I got shown a wonderful memory on Facebook.
I think I know what you're going to say, yeah.
Of the pull-up challenge.
Falling off the pull-up bar, yeah.
I remember that going around and it was about, 6 years ago? 5 years ago?
Yeah, 5 to 6 years ago.
Well, it's wonderful because you stack it off the bar, but when you think about where you are now compared to when that video was taken, is it like retrospectively allow you to see how far you've come?
Yeah, I guess it does, but I was trying to put it in perspective too that I'd literally been in a CrossFit gym 3 months at the stage, I had no real exposure to pull-ups and I don't even know what I was trying to do in the pull-up bar. I was trying to do a mixture of strict and kipping pull-ups.
It was brilliant. So yeah, it was the strict was good for a while. And then the kipping went all over the shop and then your grip just went.
I was I just didn't have it was just too stubborn to stop. And then obviously the inevitable happened and I fell off. So yeah, I'll nearly share that memory again so people can see it.
But it's not actually been. I feel like you've been on the scene forever, and you're Mr. CrossFit Ireland to a lot of people. But is 6 years in your mind quite a short time to be where you are?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it's just sort of grown with the sport in the country. I guess it wasn't really that big 6 years ago. Especially now with so many different sanctionals and different things, a lot of different people can have places to make their name. But back then, it was only really regionals. And that was really how you made a name for yourself, or how you were known as an athlete in the country. So and there wasn't really that many people that had done it back then. So I guess maybe that was sort of why the early exposure to that.
Do you think it's worked to your advantage?
Yeah.
Growing with the sport.
Yeah, it definitely has. But I think coming into it then and now, it's I say anyone could say that. You would know a lot of things of say injury prevention and different things. You just wish you were a bit more wise to some things back then. Instead of just coming and smashing yourself. But I guess it comes with the nature of the sport. You grow with it and you learn. So I think it's played advantageous and also had its negatives as well.
And you came from a background in Gaelic football?
Yeah, Gaelic football.
I mean, at that point in time, how did that transition occur? We were speaking with Cara Hamilton earlier about obviously her football career, and actually it had very little to do with her becoming an exceptional CrossFit athlete.
Yeah.
Did you find any sort of crossover?
At the start, you just get it running. In Gaelic, typically, especially clubs and stuff I was playing for, what you do, you just run, and you run more. There's no it's not really scientific or anything. So we just did a lot of running and things.
Does it help being big?
For Gaelic?
Yeah.
It can do, but it's different positions. It's a bit like seeing in soccer, you have different people for different positions. So you can be more of a versatility type player because you can sort of play in the centre of the field, or you can play forwards or backs, So, but yeah, I definitely wasn't the one to chase after the wee speedy players, So yeah, it's for different positions it was okay. But yeah, so no, it was a good basis for engine building, and I guess you're always running and always doing long running and short running, so you're always doing different kinds of training too. So I think it stood in good stead. But I think Gaelic in the early days, it didn't really have a great strength and conditioning history. So it didn't really start off with that much. It wasn't really until you became 18, 19, or even went to university and you sort of were more exposed to strength and conditioning. So squats, or oh, you don't do squats because they'll slow you down. That was the mentality. So so it wasn't really until then. So it was a wee bit late in starting that.
And I bet in uni as well, it wasn't if you were doing cleans or you were doing deadlifts, it was more about muscling up the weight than it was about getting
Oh yeah, no, at that
like,
stage,
technique correct?
whenever I went to uni, like I didn't even know what a clean was, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I knew what Olympic weightlifting was, but like I didn't know the terms of a clean and jerk. I remember
It was
even,
like to get the bar from the ground to the shoulders.
yeah, I wasn't even doing it at that stage. It wasn't until like the end of uni, until I was like 24 or something, I started doing like that sort of stuff.
Oh, so fairly late then.
Yeah. It's really not that long. Not well, 6 years ago. That was when I really started any sort of Olympic weightlifting.
It must have been really swift then between you starting and then going to regionals.
Yeah, it was within 2 years, so or 18 months, I think. Just sort of, I was lucky enough. I fell in with a group of people, and the team was strong as well. So then we were able to progress on. And back then it was like, if your girls had muscle ups or could handstand walk, well, not even handstand walking. Handstand walking wasn't even in the open then.
If they could do handstand push-ups.
Yeah, handstand push-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah, things like that. So that was the big difference. But now it's like, okay, how many can you do and how much time? So it's just progressed rapidly.
Do you look back on regionals with fond memories?
Oh yeah, no, it was great. Like the team regionals and stuff was really good fun. Competing on a team. Yeah, no, I definitely do. It was definitely special. And then even, especially the individual time I competed regionals, like that was like the best weekend, because I think people have often asked, what would you prefer, regionals or sanctionals? Like obviously sanctionals are great and the opportunity it brings, but regionals you cannot replicate what that was. You cannot replicate, that was the championship weekend for everyone to book their space. Like, if someone had a niggle, like, they had to just, get up and go at it that weekend, no matter what it was, whereas everything was on the line, but now people can pick and choose their battles. So, like, that was like, the Coliseum essentially, for everyone to go and book their spot. So, definitely very fond memories of 2018.
Do you think that you obviously have that? I mean, not to put you like up against Cara Hamilton, for example, but someone who's come into the sport a bit later and actually sees sanctionals as a viable way in. Do you think you have that nostalgia because most of your early career was a regionals career?
There's bound to be a bit of it, but I think, like, I'm not knocking sanctionals. I think sanctionals are great. It's definitely a good opportunity.
All those sanctionals you've been to.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, hopefully that will change, but that will change. But I do think it's a great opportunity. There's so many people out there who are top level athletes. It even got shown last year, people going to the games and finishing in the top 50, top 30, top 20, who never would have got there before potentially, but if can still compete, but it's just so hard to get past the regionals, or wherever region you're in, you're quite limited, to where to get in there. But whereas now it's much more wide open, so I think it is a much better system. But in terms of actually what the competition weekend was and what it meant to people, you can't replicate that same thing, Do you
think then, obviously you haven't had the experience of the games, but thinking ahead, do you think there's going to be a bigger jump than perhaps going from regionals to the games was? Because regionals was such a pinnacle of athletic excellence on one weekend.
Yeah.
Much more same.
It's bound to be a jump. You're against first of all, you're against the top guys in your region, and now you're against the top guys in the world. So I think it will be a jump, but you just have to rise to the occasion, So
let's talk about your sanctionals or lack thereof. Yeah. So how come?
Well, basically since 2018, I came away from regionals, bit of an elbow niggle, and then just tried to ignore it for a while. And then I was like, okay, went and got investigated and had like torn ligament in my elbow. I was like, right, okay, I need to get that fixed. And with that, so with the time of training for regionals and things, I actually got a cortisone injection in my wrist because it was quite sore. I didn't know at the time why, but that was actually coming from the elbow. So it was, the same side. Yeah, and then it was just because it was the ligament was elbow was unstable. That was upsetting my wrist. So that was like all of 2018. It wasn't until the end of 2018 I had surgery, and then it was coming in 2019. My wrist was still killing me, even though I had been in a brace for like 3 to 4 weeks, and I was offloading my wrist, but it was still sore. So then I seen someone, and they were like, "Oh, it's just it's just an overuse injury, and I have to try and just let it calm down, which can take anywhere between 6 to 9 months." And I was like, "Flip's sake, can you not just do something with it?" But anyway, so yeah, after that, I was like, right, okay, I don't care. Like this year, I was like, all that matters is qualifying for the games, So I wasn't going to go and risk it at a sanctional. Like my goal was get to the games, and it was now a viable opportunity. So that was from 2018 to the end of 2019, and then I wasn't really coming around again until March time to start training again properly. So then from February to October, I was like, okay, I'm just going to do that, and that's all I'm going to do. And yeah, that sort of got me to then. And then after the Open, elbow was a bit sore, and just I still get tennis elbow and stuff in it, and things like that. So it's mainly just injury risk and injury prevention. That's kind of why I've stayed out of it a wee bit. Yeah, so that's kind of brought me to now. And I guess just with the lifestyle, it's like, the cost of travel, the cost of everything. It's not really an excuse. I could do it if I wanted to, but that's brought me to now. Whereas I would be looking to do sanctionals now, but the COVID-19 has sort of knocked that in the head.
Yeah, it really has, hasn't it?
So I think the first one I was going to do, I had got an invite to Asia, and I was like, oh great, someplace I never actually thought I would go and see, and that was in January. And then a few weeks later, it was like, okay, this is not happening.
Yeah, that is definitely not happening.
Yeah, so that would have been probably the first one, and I was looking at doing a couple of other ones, but
well, honestly, you just can't risk it at this point in time if you're going to pay for a flight.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't really see too many of them going ahead either, the way things are going. The games is in doubt, but who knows? It just depends how, this time next week there could be, who knows, many cases are going to be confirmed. Yeah. So, it's just everything's in doubt at the minute.
I think we should put a blanket ban on coronavirus chats.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I think it's dominated life, hasn't it?
It literally has in such a short space of time.
But I guess the one question I will ask on it, and it's, as an athlete, your entire year is built up to this one event. And everything you've worked for and everything you're training for is one weekend, and that's potentially going to be ripped completely away.
Yeah.
Where does that leave you?
Do you know what? Like, it is what it is, and if it's out of your control, it's out of your control.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's going to be absolutely gutting. God, if it doesn't go ahead, like, it will be gutting. Because I don't know what they could do. Like, I also can imagine them cancelling it, because it's going to mess up the whole next season and everything if they try and postpone it. So, and even trying the logistics of trying to get stadiums and everything, it's just, I don't think it'd be feasible. So, just, it is what it is.
Yeah. I think it's just going to be one of those kind of things that you can't avoid.
We'll have all this fitness, so maybe I'll get my first sanctional under my belt then. So
it's not like they're not going to be happening.
Eventually, eventually, so yeah.
Okay, going back to the Open, coming out of it, few niggles, but overall, epic Open for you. Yeah. And to come back from, a fairly serious injury. Yeah. Did you perform as you expected, or did you achieve your expectations?
I was happy because, to be honest, I still didn't feel like I was at my best. I still didn't feel like some of the things. I just didn't feel like I was firing all set. I don't know whether it was nerves or pressure or anticipation, because, as you said, I'd left the whole year, not competing, and it was just like, right, you just have to trust yourself. That
it's all bubbling, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. So it could have been a lot of that, a lot of anxiety and things. Because I had put everything into that basket of being like, right, this is my chance, and I need to make it, and if I don't make it, it's going to be quite tough to go another year without doing it. And it was also, I think, if I had qualifying for the games, it gives me that like sort of carrot at the end of the stick that, okay, I'm qualified now. I can justify everything I'm doing in my life, even like professionally and work wise. Whereas if you're just going about in sanctionals, and not just going about in sanctionals, but you're going about to enjoy it, then it's like,
an expensive hobby.
It is exactly, it's an expensive hobby. So I think this is kind of my way of justifying it to myself that, okay, you qualify for the games. This is the golden ticket essentially. So it's like justifying it to myself that I'm not putting my life on hold for, as you say, for a hobby.
And you're working very closely with Neil Laverty, who runs the box, does all the programming. You do system programming as well. Yeah. How has he helped you through this period?
Neil's just great, he's just a problem solver, so whenever there's like injuries or whatever, there's always ways to work around it, there's always different things, he comes in with a problem and he'll just fix it, essentially in different ways, whenever you come to him like a schedule problem or whether it's something else, or, you're saying, look, if the injury is going to ruin me like this much, it's like, okay, well, say your wrist and elbow, well, we can get your legs stronger, we can do this, we can work on leg endurance, and immediately thinking of actions instead of more problems. Whenever you're coming to someone with problems, the worst thing you can be, oh yeah, you're right, that's going to set you back this long. But whenever someone's actually coming to you with actions to start actually doing something, then that's kind of works around it a wee bit. So he's just always been great like that, through different injuries and things, and just thinking outside the box as well. He probably does things some other coaches wouldn't, and he just thinks outside the box that wee bit, I think.